Hey, whale watchers. Long time no chat. Uh, you know, wanted to bring you up to date on some stuff. Finally got my CPAP. Yay! I feel like a cross between the Borg Queen and Ariana Grande. Um, but okay, now that I've got this, I'm gonna take this off because this is really kind of weird. Um, anyway, what I wanted to talk about today, among other things, um, is my CPAP journey, as sort of a cautionary whale, if you will, for others who may be in need of it. But first, a little shake. Mm. Um, so what I wanted to talk about is if you think you might need a CPAP, start the process early, right? Um, so my whole sort of story with this is years ago. Um, I would say probably when I was somewhere between like 330 and 350, I got this respiratory thing where couldn't really quite figure out what it was. I called it the crud. Um, and it was just basically like, I would wake up in the morning, get in the shower, and like would hack my lungs out in the shower. In the summer, if I went from like AC to to the humidity here, um, it would, which crop, it would act up as well. Went to see tons of doctors about it. No real luck there. Wasn't wasn't reflux. I tried incline pillows. I took daily omeprazole. I, went to a allergist, to see if there was something I was allergic to. We couldn't figure it out, right? All sorts of, stuff. The last one was, hey, let's have you go to a sleep doctor and see if maybe something else is going on. Do a sleep study. So I did, and I signed up. I got an appointment, and it was like 6 months away or something like that. It was like the nearest time they could see me. So I was like, all right, fine, whatever. About a month away from the appointment, I got a letter from them that's like, we're not doctors anymore. Like, I was like, what? They were basically just sort of like, we're not doing this anymore. We're closing down. Bye. Like, no, hey, here's someone else you can call, any of that stuff. And by that point, the crud had sort of gotten to a manageable level. Like it was sort of there still, but it wasn't like these morning, I mean, when I say I was hacking a lung up, like I literally like a couple times, during this, like pinched a nerve in my shoulder from coughing so much. Pulled, yes, under all of this blubber, there are abs, like I pulled an ab and like an intercostal, muscle from coughing so much. So like, but by this point it was like, each morning, I had a few coughs to clear my throat. Maybe I had a bit of phlegm that, up in the nose, but otherwise I was fine. So it was like, fine, I'm not going to bother, right? Um, you know, so flash forward to this past fall, um, I started working out with a trainer, and I was wearing my Apple Watch a lot more. And, the trainer was noticing that, hey, for what we were training, my heart rate was a little high. And I was also getting like occasional notices from the watch where it was like, hey, your heart rate is, elevated and you seem to be sitting on your fat ass. So what's going on? So when I had my physical, I mentioned it, to my primary care. Primary care did, a quick EKG thing, saw that it was high and basically said, go see a cardiologist. So I'm like, fine, whatever. Heart issues run in my family. I'm fat as, all get out. It's, this is to be expected, right? And then, So I go to the cardiologist. He's like, yeah, your blood pressure is high. Your heart rate is high. Do you feel like you've got sleep apnea? Are you waking up in the middle of the night from, not breathing? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't feel like I am. I wake up, because my bladder's got to go or whatever, like, I don't, so first off, lesson number one, you will be asked at every step of the process by every doctor you go to whether or not you feel like you wake up in the middle of the night because of apnea. And it's like, I don't fucking know. Maybe you will, I don't know, but that's, number one. Just get used to answering that question. Have a pat answer ready. So the cardiologist said, all right, let's schedule a follow-up where, in 5 weeks or something like that, where we'll do, an echocardiogram, and then we'll do an at-home sleep study. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever. So come back in 5 weeks for the echocardiogram, and, they do that, sit with the doctor, and he's like, so did you get the sleep study? And I'm like, no, you said that when I come back, we'll do the sleep study. And of course, my air conditioning just turned on. Yay, thank you. Let's see if I can. Sorry about that. You're going to have a little bit of noise. But, so he said, hey, it was like, did you get the sleep study? And I'm like, no, you said when I came back I would get it. He's like, oh, right. We used to do this, at-home program out of this office, but they closed that down, and now we only do it out of this office on the other side of town. So you're going to have to make an appointment with them to see a sleep doctor, and then they'll determine whether or not you need, to have the sleep study. So of course, now I call them up, and they can't see me for another 4 weeks. So I'm like, okay, fine. So I go to the sleep doctor. The sleep doctor's like, hey, you're 400 pounds. Hey, your uvula is larger than normal. Hey, your turbinates in your nose, which are some part of the nostril, are larger than normal. So pretty much I'm 100% certain I'm 99.999% certain you've got sleep apnea. But we've got to do a test. So I was like, fine. So it's like, we can do the at-home test. And I'm like, okay, great. And, it's just like, yeah, you'll have to call and schedule it. And I'm like, is there any chance, I could get one today? Because, frankly, I don't have a car. I, take Uber across town. It's all the way freaking across town. So, if I could take it today, that'd be great. She's like, oh, let me call them up. So they're like, oh, yeah, we have one. And she's like, oh, great, can I send him, to get it? And she's like, oh, wait, no, he needs prior authorization from his insurance to cover this. I'm like, oh, great. So couldn't take it that day. So they're like, okay, call, once we get the prior authorization, we'll contact you and we can schedule when you can come get this. So I'm like, fine, whatever. So this was, sort of end of December. I get the call. They're like, oh, okay, we've got an appointment for you. And it was right smack dab in the middle of the Grom, of the Grom of the Seas when I'm out on this cruise in the middle of the fucking Caribbean. So what am I going to do? So I was like, okay, can we push it to, the next week when I'm back? And they're like, oh no, the next one we don't have an appointment available until a month from then. So now we're into February. So I'm like, fine. So okay, so I have to, truck myself all the way across town and back to get the home sleep test, take the sleep test. Then the next morning I have to truck it all the way back across town to bring it back to them. And they're like, okay, it'll be 2 weeks to process. I'm like, seriously? Someone, there should be a readout from this. It shouldn't take 2 weeks. Thankfully it didn't take 2 weeks. It only took a week. And she's like, the doctor's like, like, I think they call obstructive sleep apnea something like above like 30 or something like that. Um, and I was at 75 interruptions a night. So I was like, okay, great. So she's like, yep, we're going to get you a CPAP. Someone will be in touch. Oy vey. So, of course, I get the call and they're like, um, we're, so this was early March, I want to say. And they're like, yeah, you can't, the doctor asked me, do you want one just shipped to you and you'll sort of figure it out? Or do you want, to go somewhere and, do it, and have them show you how it works and everything? And I'm like, I'm savvy, just send it to me. Like, plus, I'm part of a gainer community. If I've got questions, I've got, 5,000 fatties I can ask who are on a CPAP. So I say, just do a shipped one. So I get the call and they're like, oh, no, we can't do shipping. Apparently, as part of the whole pandemic, supply system thing, whatever, the chips were in short supply. And I'm like, and plus your insurance, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, God damn it. Like, come on. So they're like, we can do, and of course, all of their places are, out in the suburbs. They have no place remotely downtown, no place remotely metro accessible. So I'm like, all right, fine. Like, when can I do it? And they're like, okay, April 21st. So Thursday, yesterday, I finally got my CPAP. So this whole process started back in October. So that's my cautionary tale to you all, is that, if you think you need a CPAP, like, don't wait. I mean, I get it if you're unfortunately, or underinsured or whatever, this may be tough, but don't wait, because, it is this whole long shebang. So, I asked a friend of mine who was like, got diagnosed and got his CPAP the next day, and I was like, how'd you do that? And he was like, I have friends, and, I was like, oh, okay, all right. I'm like, thought it was a regional thing, but okay, you just got the connections. Fine. But, yeah, so anyway, that's my cautionary whale tale, as it were, to quote Juno. But aside from that, March was a little rough for me. I don't know why. I just sort of was very unmotivated. Both gaining, but just also in real life. So I'm still, rocking above 400. I'm about 405, somewhere between 405 and 410, depending. Sort of have gone through my wardrobe and gotten rid of all of the, sort of 4XLs that don't quite come down underneath. I saved a few for comparisons, later, but, basically upsizing my wardrobe into the, 5XL and sometimes 6XL if they were, didn't have that particular style in 5. But I did put together a list of some of my hand-me-downs that, are looking for a home. I will put that link in the description, where, if someone's out there who, is basically sort of in that, 6 foot, 330 to, 400 range, with the belly, who might, find usage of these items. I'd love to, send them to another person. A lot of them are, very lightly used, or still, in really good shape. So, But yeah, so aside from that, I'm sort of, looking to get back on the game train a little bit more. Yeah, I've got some, hopefully a good period of time where I'll be able to do that. But, still loving this belly, and really looking forward to, it growing a bit more. So I hope you all have a great, I guess today is Earth Day, so, have a great Earth Day. I'm probably not really one to say that considering how wasteful, gaming can be in many respects. Um, but aside from that, cheers.